Hey boys and girls, today we read chapters 4 and 5 of The Top 10 Ways to Ruin the First Day of 5th Grade by Ken Derby. So let's talk about the chapter. You've listened to it be read or you read it yourself, chapters 3 and 4. So let's look at chapter 4 first. Now, the whole class of in-person learners agree chapter 4 has been the best chapter so far. It's called the photocopy. Now remember, a photocopy, I put it on the copy machine and it makes a photocopy, like of a worksheet or whatever I need photocopied. So that's what it's referring to when it says photocopy. Now, it starts off with, "No way," Mo insisted. "Come on," Tony pleaded. "No way, Mr. G will kill me. The Terminator will kill me. My parents will kill me." Right away we have foreshadowing. Our author's letting us know that once again, the boys are going to do something that's going to get them into trouble. So remember, clues the author gives, letting us know something's going to happen in the story is foreshadowing. So once again, Tony and Mo are going to do something in the story that's going to get them in trouble. So let's read what it's going to be. It has to be something with photocopy because that's the title of our chapter. So, the boys, they're in the teacher's lounge, okay? And they're supposed to be cleaning out the trash bins. But Tony instead tries to convince Mo that they're going to make a photocopy of something, okay? We don't know what yet. But anyway, he's trying to convince him to do the thing that's going to get him in trouble. Tony is with Mo. And he says, "We won't have another chance like this in a million years." Tony's like, "We'll never be able to get to do this again. Not even in a million years will we be able to." Now, that is an extreme exaggeration because we know they're not going to be around for a million years, okay? So when we have an extreme exaggeration, that's what's called a hyperbole, okay? Extreme exaggerations are hyperboles. A million years, a lot of people say that. Won't even happen in a million years. Like it's extreme, okay? Now, excuse me. So he's like saying, "Yeah, we'll be famous," okay, and all this other kind of stuff. And they're talking, and they're finally saying that the coast is clear, okay? And he says, "It's time to rock and roll." Now they're really not going to rock and roll, okay? That's another type of figurative language, which is an idiom. When you don't literally mean what those words mean. It just means it's time to go. It's time to get doing what we're going to do. Okay, so remember, that's an idiom. When you don't take the words literally, they don't really mean rock and roll. Okay? Now, we learn, this is the funny part, the hilarious part, okay, that Tony begins to pull down his pants. Oh my goodness. He lifted the lid of the copy machine. "You're going to be famous." "Yeah, right. Just hurry up." He drops his pants to his ankle. He drops his underwear, and he sits his behind on the photocopy machine, and they make 25 copies of his rear end. Now, these boys have lost their mind, okay? We know this is not going to turn out good, and you should never make a photocopy of your rear end at school or anywhere, okay? So anyway, it says the machine whirled into action. Now, that is what we call onomatopoeia, when you put a sound into words, okay? Remember I talked about it yesterday, like ding dong or bang or boom, okay? When you put a sound to words, it's called onomatopoeia. So word, like the sound that the machine makes, is an onomatopoeia. And they say, this is going to take forever if they're going to make 25 copies. It will take forever. Now, it's literally not going to take forever. It just means it's going to take a while, okay? So, once again, extreme exaggeration. That's a hyperbole. You can almost even say it's an idiom because it's really not going to take forever, okay? But more so, it's an exaggeration, okay? It's a hyperbole. So, they're making photocopies, 25 of them, of his rear end. Then it says, everything was okay at 5 copies. No problems at 10 copies. 15 copies shot out. Nothing's going wrong. Then they use the word in the story, but at 19 copies. When he puts that but in there, not meaning your rear end, meaning the conjunction but, okay, except on the 19th copy, the door began to slowly open. Once again, we have foreshadowing, letting us know something's going to happen in our story. Now, more than likely, it's probably not going to be something that's good, okay, because they're copying their rear end. Not a good thing, okay? We also have suspense here because we want to know when the door opens who it is. Are they going to get caught? Are they going to get in trouble? What's going to happen? So we have suspense. Mo stood as still as a statue. Now, when it says he stood as still as a statue, okay, that is a simile. A simile is when you use like or as to compare two unlike things to make them the same, okay? So it says Mo stood as still as a statue. So he's real stiff, okay? He's not moving, so he doesn't get caught. The door opened a couple of inches, then another inch. Fingers curled around the edge of the door. Long fingers, adult fingers, okay? Once again, we have suspense. We want to know what's going to happen. We're getting really anxious to learn, okay? Are they going to get caught? Who is that? And we learn the Terminator's hands, which is the principal. Now, the boys think the end is near. They think, this is it. We're in trouble. We're busted. And the door opens a full 6 inches. But guess what? The door goes closed again. Whew, the boys think, okay? They didn't get caught. The principal didn't actually come all the way in. And so they didn't get caught. So they think that, hey, we're not in any trouble. We didn't get caught, okay? Well, they get out of the teacher's lounge where the copy machine is. They think it's all good to go, that they didn't get caught. Well, what happens? Of course, something's got to happen with Mr. Gore because in every other chapter, something's happened with Mr. Gore. And Mr. Gore's carrying paint, red paint, and whammo, the words right there, whammo. They run into Mr. Gore, red paint, okay? The copies of his rear end, of Tony's rear end, go flying, okay? And remember, that word whammo is an onomatopoeia, putting sound to words, okay? And it says, his class lined up like perfect little angels, stood in stunned silence. They can't believe that once again, Tony's done something to Mr. Gore, and Mr. Gore gets something all over his clothes, and he has to go home and change again, okay? Now, when it says they lined up like perfect little angels, that is a simile, which means that they use like or as to compare things, okay? So, Mr. Gore's going to have to go home. Mr. Gore's like drawn like this, like you're dead meat, okay? You're in lots of trouble here, buddy. The copies go flying everywhere. The kids start looking at the copies. And they start joking around about it, the other kids, okay? And then finally they realize it's Tony's butt cheeks on the copy, okay? So, and you have to remember, Anna gets a copy, and Anna has a crush on Tony, and Tony has a crush on Anna, okay? So anyway, it says, will you please autograph your gluteus maximus for me? Your gluteus maximus is your rear end, okay? Tony's face gets red because, you know, they have a crush on each other. Anyway. So, Tony has to go to the principal's office. So does Mo. What happens again? They get in trouble with the principal. Now it says Tony's stomach spun like a top, okay? Once again, a simile. You use like or as to tell how his stomach was feeling, and it felt like a top, you know, like one of those that you spin and it just keeps spinning, okay? So, Tony goes home that night. And of course his parents know. This time, unlike the other times, Tony's parents are really upset with them, okay? They don't act like it at first. They act like everything's okay, but they're doing the dishes and they're gonna watch TV. They're sitting in the living room, but they don't turn the TV on like they normally do, okay? And it says, his father got up and circled the living room like a vulture, okay? So it tells how his father's walking around. We know vultures, they're prey, and they prey on dead animals, and they eat those dead animals on the road, okay? So that's another simile. It also says, you're beginning to look like a human Christmas tree with all those things hanging on you. They're talking about a Sister Maria who has all the piercings, okay? So they're saying like, all those piercings make you look like a Christmas tree because of the decorations ornaments that Christmas trees get on. So once again, you have a simile, okay? And they're kind of bickering back and forth, Maria and Tony, a little bit. And then finally, okay, the parents give him his consequences. And they tell him, no more David Letterman. No more watching the tapes of David Letterman. You got to give us all your old ones. And you can't write him anymore, okay? Because they are upset, okay? Mom and Dad have been pretty calm about all of this stuff. Now they're not. They're not calm about it anymore. They're not relaxed. They're not laid back about it, okay? So they're upset. We definitely have a characterization change of Mom and Dad. They're angry, and rightfully so. Then he goes ahead. Can you believe this? Tony goes ahead and breaks the rule of what his parents said of his punishment about not writing David Letterman. And he does anyway. And this time he writes the top 10 things you should never do at school. And of course, number 1 is the thing that he did at school. So, our other chapters have ended up with Tony doing something silly and getting in trouble for it at school. Mr. Gore having to go home and change his clothes, and him writing David Letterman the top 10 things to do, okay, or not to do. Now, our next chapter, it's a really long chapter, but it's long, but it's called Can a Boy in a Bear Suit Disrupt a Professional Football Game? So we can already guess what is going to happen. Sorry, I have a meeting here in just a minute, so I had to watch my time. So anyway, so we already know. Somehow there's going to be a boy. We can guess Tony. We can make a prediction here. Think what's going to happen and prove whether it's true or not true, and disrupt a professional football game. Okay. Now, it's Halloween. It's okay, and he wants to dress up as a bear. He gives his mom the excuse that bears are undeniably the coolest creatures on earth, and he wants to dress up as something different than anybody else, okay? And his mom's like, come on, what's the real reason here? My mom radar's going off, and I know you're just not telling me the truth. There's a real reason, and it has to do something with David Letterman's show, why you want to dress up as a bear. So he tells mom only part of the truth and not the whole truth, okay? And then he's saying to butter mom up, he's like, no, you're cool, Mom, Tony said as he shoved a bite of pancake in his mouth, even though you're tougher than a prison warden, okay? So he's comparing his mom to a prison warden now, and that's a metaphor, okay? So he gets his mom, and she's gonna get him the costume, and she makes him promise him, says, he says to his mom, I promise, madam, that I will do nothing to disgrace your royal name, okay? He muttered in his best British accent. We already know. We know Tony's character. We know his personality. He's going to do something when he's in that bear costume, and Mom and Dad's probably going to be upset. He's going to do something again that's going to get himself in trouble, okay? Let's find out what it is, okay? He tells his parents that Mr. Gore has gotten them all tickets for Halloween. And they're tickets to the Chiefs football game. Yay, exciting. My son would be thrilled. He's a Chiefs fan, okay? Now, you got to remember, Mr. Gore played not professional football, but he played college football for Missouri University. So anyway, so he's going to go. He's going to dress up as a bear when they go to the football game. Everybody's supposed to dress up, okay? So they're dressing up. They go to the football game, and what could possibly go wrong? And Tony's mom and dad can't go because they have another commitment. Now, we discussed this in class, that if you were Tony's mom and dad, and knowing all the trouble that Tony has gotten into, you would go to the football game so that he wouldn't get in trouble. But they don't because they have another commitment, okay? Now, Dean because he's not a Kansas City Chiefs fan, okay? He thinks they should get beat that day. So he says, I hope the Jets crush the Chiefs. Now, he doesn't really literally mean crush them, okay? He just means that they beat them. So that's a type of figurative language called an idiom, okay? Or, yeah, we're going to leave it with that, okay? And he doesn't literally mean crush them, okay? Mr. Gore asked the class to do 3 things that day. 3 things. Now, they should be really simple and easy, but as we know, they're going to be hard for Tony. He says, class, do 3 things today. Respect people, respect property, and enjoy the game. Tony's going to have problems, I'm going to predict, with respect people and respect property. Just knowing Tony and the stunts that he's pulled in the past, he's probably going to break one of those rules. Now, Dean replies, they get there and they see all these people here. And he thinks there's about 1 million people, he says. Now, we know that's an extreme exaggeration. There's not 1 million people there. So that's a hyperbole. So they're watching the game. And it ends up that they're tied 7-7, okay? And popcorn's flying. And so they see one person throw popcorn, so the rest of them start throwing popcorn. And it ends up, it says that the game was a Wild West sort of game. Now, it wasn't a Wild West sort of game. It just says how the craziness was going. Think of the Wild West when we think of cowboys and Indians, okay? That kind of settling the West. So, once again, an idiom, okay? It really wasn't the Wild West. So it's 31-31, and then all of a sudden the Jets get ahead. They call for the 2-minute warning, which means there's 2 minutes left. And so here we go. Tony hasn't done anything yet, and we know he's got to, okay? So he says, Tony nudges Mo, it's time. Are you going with me? And he's like, where? I'm going to snatch the football from the field. Then I'll get it autographed by the Chiefs after the game. So he thinks that if he runs down on that field, snatches the football, that he's going to get on the David Letterman show. Not a good idea. And we learned that Mo does not want to go. He decides, I'm not going. It's crazy. You do it yourself. Okay? And so Tony's going to go down there. Okay? He hooks his leg over the rail and was ready to drop onto the field when somebody tapped him on the shoulder. We have suspense here. Who's tapping him on the shoulder? Tony turned slowly around, expecting to see a very upset Mr. G, but it was not the case. I'm going, said a ninja. Okay, so somebody dressed in a ninja costume says he's going to go. We have suspense. Who is it? Me too, said a princess. Okay, we want to know who they are. Suspense. It was Mo and Anna. So they're going to help him out. They're going to help him get down there on that football field. And they do. Okay? And so he runs down there on the football field. He gets the ball, and he's running. And he has the referees running after him and security guards, okay? And the whole state of Missouri was probably cheering wildly. The whole state of Missouri was not cheering wildly. Once again, an extreme exaggeration, a hyperbole. So they're chasing him. And we have all this excitement, okay? We have all of this suspense. Does he get away? Okay? We have all that suspense going on. And then he makes a touchdown. Oh my goodness, he's done it, okay? Now, we think he's probably going to be in lots of trouble. It doesn't get that way, okay? He actually gets interviewed by ESPN, which is a sports channel, okay? They ask him why he did it. He says, because he wants to be on the David Letterman show. And he tells them about how this guy one time did a gag on the David Letterman show, on the Late Show, okay? And he's like, I want my best friends, Mo and Anna, to be on the show with me. So, Mr. Gore is upset. But this time, he doesn't really get hurt. He doesn't have to go home and change his clothes or anything, so we have a difference here. He's upset, okay? And he tells them, when the rest of the class, who's been invited to be down on the sideline with the team, gets to be down there, Tony can't be. He's got to be in the locker room. Well, then it ends up Mr. Gore changes his mind because of what a player says, okay? And he gets to stay down there on the sideline. Now, Mr. Gore is really nice to him all of a sudden, okay? Change of character for Mr. Gore. Not that he was mean to him before, but now he's treating him differently, okay? So he doesn't get in trouble at school for it, but man, when he gets home, he gets in trouble again. And guess what he does? He writes another letter to, he's grounded for a week, he can't watch any TV for a month, and he's not supposed to be writing David Letterman, but guess what he does? He writes David Letterman, he tells him the top 10, and of course, number 1 is the one that he did, okay? So, what more trouble can he get in? Is he going to get on the David Letterman show? Will David Letterman end up seeing this interview that was on ESPN? Or was David Letterman watching the football game and see this kid running with a football on the field? Okay? We have lots of suspense. We have lots of predictions. We have lots of figurative language. Remember, a hyperbole is an extreme exaggeration. We had an idiom. You don't take the words for what they really mean. Okay? They mean something else. What else? Oh, we had a simile. You use like or as to compare two unlike things and make them the same. And then we had a metaphor where you compare things where you say one is another, but you don't use like or as. Okay? So that was our chapters 4 and 5 today. After you watch this video, make sure that you take the comprehension questions, okay? Don't try to take the quiz, the comprehension questions, and then watch my video, because you will not do well, okay? See you guys tomorrow.